So, welcome to week 10 of Presbyterian Polity, our last week, our wrap up week, and our last confession. So, the brief statement of faith this week will wrap up our consideration of the confessions, and then we'll just do some other things that help tie things together for this class, prepare you for the exam that is coming for ordination, as I think you all are well prepped for the final and for that ordination exam when it comes to you. You've been a great class, done tremendous work, been creative, willing to try new things, and done an excellent job engaging with one another and learning together and forming a learning community even across the distance. I look forward to continued relationships and being a continued colleague with you all as you move on in towards and to ordained ministry. So the brief statement of faith was a result of the merger of two Presbyterian denominations in 1983. In 1983, the Presbyterian Church in the United States, the PCUS, which was the Southern Presbyterian Church, and the United Presbyterian Church of the United States of America, which was the Northern Presbyterian Church, and it gets its name from a merger that happened in 1958. But in 1983, the Northern Church, the UPCUSA, and the Southern Church, the PCUS merged. They've been divided for over 100 years. They became the PCUSA. Historic event, a lot of hope as that happened, a lot of celebration as that happened. The Articles of Agreement govern the reunion, mandated that a committee be appointed representing diversity of view and groups to prepare a brief statement of the Reformed faith for possible inclusion in the Book of Confessions. This is a group chosen for its diversity, expected to write a document that brings us together. It was a huge challenge. They were convened in 1984, 21 people. Imagine being a group of 21 charged with doing this, met different places over the country, sometimes several times a year until February of 1988 when they completed a draft document. At one point, they also thought they would write a catechism based on the brief statement of faith. In the 1990s, there actually was a catechism produced. It was never included in the Book of Confessions, nor was that proposed. 1988, they give a report to General Assembly. They receive over 15,000 reply forms along with 1,700 extended replies. So a lot of interest, a lot of response, a lot of care for this. In 1989, there was a committee that looked at the statement but didn't have any power to change it. They could and they did recommend changes. The General Assembly passed unanimously, and then a committee of 15, which you'll remember from our polity, was appointed with 60 members because it says it's a minimum of 15. They made substantial changes uncovering what they called the idolatry of parsimony. In 1990, the General Assembly passes the documents, sends it to the presbyteries. In 1991, a sufficient number of presbyteries passed it. The General Assembly passed it, so it's part of the Book of Confessions. It is, if you have ever read it from end to end, not in the opinion of many people, myself included, it's not brief. In other words, if you stood up and said the entire thing during worship, it feels really long to people. Obviously not the length of the Westminster Confession or any of the other confessions, but neither does it have a sufficient brevity to just do one shot in worship. The theology of the brief statement of faith, I think that you will notice an emphasis on the equality of people, substantial concern about that. It makes explicit the ordination of women, says that women and men are called to ordered ministry in the church. There's language about God that moves in an expansive way, and there's an emphasis on the life of Jesus. So in some sense, you see here a statement of faith that is concerned about human life, about people, about women, about expanding language for God, and even about the life of Jesus. Hearing voices of people long silence, you get language like that in this brief statement of faith. In terms of our polity, I would like you to remember that it was written for use in worship. And so it doesn't provide, let's say, depth of theological content. That's not its goal. It's written to be a liturgically used statement. And it is I would say that my observation would be that it was used a lot right after it was written, and it seems to me that has died down some and people are less familiar with it, particularly as the memory of the reunion recedes and more people who come to be a part of the church don't have the story inside themselves that there was this historic merger in 1983 and as a result of it. And also the polity of it, it was written to try and unify the denomination, which means that there's a concern about disunity and fracture and a continued wondering about what it is that pulls us together and takes us into the future as a denomination, which we will look at when we look at the way forward. That continues to be a concern for our polity and also for our denomination. I commend it to you, look forward to your engagement with it, what you discover in it, and how it resonates with you, particularly I think this idea of overcoming division and division in these two predecessor denominations and the kinds of things that means for us as a denomination going forward.